Welcome to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast, where your host, Cassandra Crawley Mayo, helps you break free from obstacles and live life on your terms. Get ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and inspiration. Tune in as we dive into captivating conversations with experts and explore topics that will ignite your passion and drive. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Let's dive in.
Good day out there to all my listeners, and I'd like to welcome you to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And for those new listeners, I'm your host, and my name is Cassandra Crawley Mayo. Yes, I am a transformational author, speaker, and mentor for what I say for purpose-driven women who are ready to start living their best life on purpose. And we talk about topics related to personal development and self-improvement. And today I am really excited about this topic because it's all about women getting bad advice. So I just can't wait to introduce you to my special guest, Genevieve Scorey. And let me just share a little bit before we move forward. This episode, we're going to be breaking down what it really takes, I say, to thrive, not just survive, in your purpose. If you ever felt like your hustle is outpacing your peace, this conversation is your reset button. So ladies and the few men out there, let's get ready to reset, and let me introduce you to Genevieve, and I'm going to have her pronounce that Scorey. I'm going to have her because it has a little French twist. So, Miss Scorey, would you please pronounce your first name?
Yes, it's Genevieve. Genevieve. There we go.
Okay,
yeah.
Genevieve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, look, I'm going to welcome you to Is Your Way in Your Way. And I'm super excited that you're a guest of mine because our topics are very similar. But before we get started, I want to read your bio because a lot of my listeners want to know what in the world qualifies her to talk about this. So let me read a little bit. She is a resilience coach and entrepreneur who helps people master the mental game of success. Through her signature approach, her program is called Resilience Mapping, and she equips entrepreneurs with the emotional tools and mindset strategies to navigate challenges, recover from setbacks, and build sustainable, purpose-driven businesses. She's known for her relatable humor and tell it like it is, authenticity. She blends practical guidance with heartfelt wisdom, helping others turn frustration into focus and setbacks into stepping stones. Wow. Hey, let me ask you, Genevieve, listen, what was life like before you became a confidence coach? What was going on with you?
Yeah. So I am pretty much like the average entrepreneur. Something happened. I think something happens in most people's lives where they decide, I'm going to do this different. I'm going to do this different. So there's been multiple times in my life where I thought, I feel like I need a different path. So I've navigated both entrepreneurial life and corporate life. And usually they kind of thread in and out of each other and they intertwine. But I ended up after 7 years of working with a $350 million brand as the top sales executive, a C-suite executive for the brand. And I just got to a point, honestly, where I had been running like a crazy fool, but I was doing all the things, Cassandra. Like I literally was like, whoo, did that, check the box, check the box, check the box. I was checking so many boxes, except for the Genevieve box. What does Genevieve want to do and value? Right. And I kept telling myself, the point is to win. So for those people out there listening, and we're drivers and we're like, winning equals fun and fun equals winning. I just literally burned myself out to the core. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds
Yeah.
so familiar. Okay.
Uh,
That's not like a
so
hamster.
many people can relate to that,
Yeah.
especially like it's okay to be driven, but what ends up happening, especially if you don't have a good mentor or you don't have a coach, and every successful person does, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't have someone advocating for you,
Mm-hmm.
it's very easy to get swept up in other people's values,
Right.
people's lives. And so I decided, you know what, I want to use my skills for good and not evil. Not that it was evil, but
Yeah.
I have a real passion and sensitivity to women in particular who work really hard,
Mm-hmm.
have a really great idea, but the path is just paved with many downs, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and ups, but many downs, and just really need some shortcuts from people
Yeah.
who've walked the walk.
Right, right. So you talked about being burnout. It was just too much for you, like it is for many women. They
Yeah.
just work, hamsters, hamsters.
Yes.
What was it about it that you had to pivot? I mean, you really pivoted. What?
Yeah.
How did you do that? Because many of my listeners are having that problem. So how did you do that?
Yeah. Well, usually the way that I do pivots is typically a visit from the clue fairy. She shows up with a big rubber mallet and
Okay.
hits you over the head with it.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
In this particular case, it really was, I think, getting to a point, not only in my career, where I just showed up and kept thinking to myself, I don't know what else to do to provide sanity. Like
Mm.
I can
Okay.
keep chasing this thing. But the other thing, and I think the really important thing, was my mother, who at the time was 86 years old, failing health,
Yeah.
came to live with us.
Okay.
And at the time, I didn't feel at all supported by the business associations that I
Sure.
had,
Yeah.
which hurt my feelings, which you're
Yeah.
not supposed to say as a corporate big
Mhm.
exec. But it's like, listen, y'all, I gave you
Right.
my blood, sweat, and tears, and I have
Exactly.
been pacing like a crate, running and crossing finish lines for 7 years. I needed 6 months of understanding, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So it was that, but it was also having my mom here and really starting to think about, for my next chapter of my life, what do I want it to look like? Do I want it to look like more of this?
Yes.
Or do I want to spend more time on the things that mean the most to me?
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, you can do both. You can do both, but you've got to set that up intentionally.
Wow. That's interesting how you said you could do both. And I struggled with that. I tried. My dad was sick. Um, that corporate travel and it was so difficult for
Yeah.
me to do both that. And then you want to set your priorities, but then for me, being one of the first African American females in my roles, I felt I had to prove that I was qualified, even though I was, but I had to prove. So I was torn between that. And like you indicated, you could do both, which is great.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of listeners that want to do both, but they're struggling. And one of the things you talked about, like thanks to the advances of today, like social media, the advances in tech and all of that. So all of that sets people up that are looking to entrepreneurship. They're thinking like, okay, all of this stuff is going on. I think I can do this.
Yes.
And personal development is a source, yet some are still stuck. So why do you think that is based on what's going on in our culture, the technology, the social? It's like everything somewhat is at your hands, but yet they're stuck. Why do you think that is?
Yeah. So honestly, I think because we've been lied to as women, to be completely honest. There is always this sense of you have to do more, you have to keep up, you have to be like the other men around you. And the truth, honestly, the truth is authenticity, like really finding out who you are and really leaning into your gifts and strengths is really like who you need to be is far more important than what you need to do. And I think the lie is we get told you need to do more. You need to study more. You need to do more. You need to, all the training out there that I ever took in the corporate world was all about like those hard skills and maybe some leadership skills and soft skills.
Yeah.
But nobody ever says, listen, you have to be the thing. There's no amount of training that's going to help you if inside you aren't actually her. That version of you that needed to show up as the president, the CEO, the CFO, the CMO, the owner of your own business, which makes you a CEO. Like there's a version of her that may look a little different than where you are now. And it's not really about the hard skills. It's about how would that person show up in this meeting? How does she show up every day?
Right.
That I think is really the missing element. And honestly, the thing that is so much more rewarding, more and brings better results.
Right. Now, something else you said is, did you realize what you were good at?
No.
Yeah.
There were people would say things like, oh, you're so good at this, or you're so good at that. I have difficulty owning that.
Yeah.
And I think, Cassandra, maybe you can relate to this. When you're an overachiever, the finish line keeps moving.
Yes.
So I didn't stop to, like, oh my gosh, that was great. Well done, me. Oh my gosh, look, I'm winning every single day. It was like you set a goal, you cross the finish line, you hardly even congratulate yourself. Right. You just keep moving the goalposts.
Exactly.
So there was no time for think about what you're good at.
Right. That's right. So tell us some of the signs that you encountered when you discovered you were in your way of moving on.
Yeah. One is a unrealistic, I think, fantasy viewpoint of what good looks like. So in my head, good looked like perfection. It looked like you never really, and I worked in an environment where people said, oh yeah, it's okay to make mistakes, but it wasn't really safe to make mistakes.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So you become super hard on yourself, even small things. So your lens of what success looks like is much different for you than other people. Yes. So you're really, really hard on yourself. The second thing is, I think you wake up tired. You just do. You're kind of like, I'm tired because I'm scurrying. Like I've told myself, right? Maybe you tell yourself, you got to win. You've got to always win. Your definition of winning is always attached to something in the future. Yeah. So you feel tired physically, spiritually, and mentally because you haven't set your life up to win every single day. So like an example of that would be, okay, we got to get X amount of dollars. That's the goal. That's the finish line, if you will. Well, if that's winning, then I have to delay a sense of gratification until that happens. And a lot of times that goal is an annual goal, or maybe it's a 5-year goal.
Right.
So what I had to look at was, how do I win every day? And for me, I had to define things like winning looks like having great conversations with people that serves them, or winning looks like showing up authentically in meetings. I had to create my own scoreboard on a day-to-day basis to keep me from getting in my own way. Because I'm looking out to the future and it's like, no, these are the little things that need to happen every day that are going to drive success.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say, and for my listeners, first of all, you have to define what win is for you, not for your boss. It's good to know though, what the boss's goals are and what win looks like to them. But then you have to figure out what does success look like,
for you.
Right. Yeah. And I remember thinking about that. And one of my rationales about success was having a peace of mind. And when I say that, people are like, what? I'm like, yeah, because peace of mind to me is priceless. Now I can meet those goals and all of, but for my health, and I was dealing with health issues because I was so burnt out, So you're right. You have to figure out what's working for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You have to consciously pick something every day. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And so is that why you started this resilience mapping? Was that an element of all of that? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I know, if you're an entrepreneur, that you need resilience like that, and I liken it to like an old fashioned water pump. Business is very much like an old fashioned water pump. If you've ever actually pumped a water pump from the ground, you know how much effort it takes to pump before you see a single drop of water, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you walk up and you're like, this looks fun. And you start, pushing that handle down. And that handle, first of all, is heavy. It is heavy. And then you got to put all this effort in and you've got to create all this pressure and you got to go and keep going and keep going. You start to sweat. Yeah. And then a little bit comes out, and you're like, all that work for that, right? And then if you're smart enough to keep going, the resilience part of it, right, you will reap the benefits of your effort. Most people don't know how to stick it out through the pump priming process. All they do is see themselves working and they don't know there's a lag time. And as a matter of fact, I think most people fantasize about having a business from the standpoint of all upside, no downside, right? So I'm going to have the laptop lifestyle. I'm going to be able to do all the things on my own terms. And it's like,
that's right. Okay.
Yes and no. Yes and no. So what I asked myself was, what are the things that have gotten me through this? I started looking at people that I was working with in coaching, and I realized there were a couple of key things that were fundamental. It's not just show up, which a lot of people will say, like resilience is just showing up. And it's like, well, it is, but you need to map it out in advance so that it's like a roadmap, if you will, of where the the detours are going to be, where the bridges are, where the valleys are, where the potholes are going to be, where the cliffs are, and how to navigate those things in advance. So it really, to me, was about how can I set someone up on their journey? And I do believe that businesses are a journey to have the highest likelihood of success so that they can say when something happens, they told me this was going to happen and I am prepared for it. I'm prepared for it. So we map that out.
Okay. Well, tell me in a sentence, what is resilience in a sentence?
Resilience to me is stepping forward without any expectations based on your values and desires to serve. That to me is the definition. It's like, I'm not doing it because I'm not doing it with an expectation. Right. Like, for example, you've got, like, if you're in sales, you have to make sales calls.
Yes.
And those sales calls, a lot of them at first lead to no. But if your expectation is, I'm going to get a sale every time I call, you'll stop calling.
Right. Exactly.
So you got to find a way to do it that fills your soul, and you want to do it every single day, regardless. Now, I believe if you follow the process, if you follow your resilience map, you will get those yeses, but we're not fantasizing about the results. We are actually falling in love with the work.
And that entails executing.
Yes.
Execution is key. Yeah. You can talk it and all of this. So, okay. Now, for my listeners who have these, if they define what their best life looks like, and a lot of people don't know what that is.
Right.
And I always used to say, I'm going to give you a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. Where would you rate yourself and living your best life on your terms on that scale? And I've had people look at me like, I'm a 10, because they don't want to deal with it. Right. And then there's some people that really think about that and they realize, I think I'm a kind of a 5, so they're like, I'm bringing that up to say, you must be, if that's where you want to go, because my thing is, when it's time for us to leave this earth, one of my passions is don't have no regrets. Do what it is that you believe in your heart that you're supposed to do. So when it's time for you, you won't say, I wish I would have done this. Or I wish, I always wanted to write this book. I always wanted to be a coach, but I never did that. So whatever it is you want to do, you got to be resilient. But like you say, don't have that expectation. Well, when I make that sales call, I'm gonna get yeses. You may not get them for a week, but you gotta keep it moving, right?
Yeah.
So when you left corporate in the sales piece, did you know what it was you wanted to do? You knew you wanted out, right?
Yeah.
So how did you know what to do next?
Ready to design your dream life? Join Cassandra Crawley Mayo's Create and Design Your Best Life workshop. Break free from self-doubt and obstacles and step into a life of purpose and fulfillment. Click the link in the description to register now. Don't wait. Spaces are limited. Start living your best life today.
What I did, which is part of resilience mapping, is I revisited my values.
Okay.
I revisited my values because a lot of times what keeps people from moving ahead from a self-motivation standpoint is their values aren't aligned with their goals. So for example, right, I've coached a lot of women who their biggest value actually isn't their business. Their biggest value is their family.
Okay.
So businesses making money, not actually even in the top 5 values that they have.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's gonna be a tough road to hoe. That really is, because you're going to have external motivation to get you excited about working a business when what you really want to do is be at home and be a mom. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have a business. It means that you have to figure out a way to align what you're doing to that value.
Right.
So that you're not out there chasing money, you're chasing more time with your family. You're chasing not having, the benefit of not having to go and get a full-time job, whatever that happens to be.
Right.
But we get distracted, right? You see, especially with social media, Cassandra, you see all these people. It's like, oh my gosh, no one has a business that's hard to manage or navigate, or it's sunshine and flowers and rainbows for everyone on social media. I'm like, I know some of those people. And I'm here to tell you, it's not all that. Like it's not. but we don't share those things. So we have this fantasy about what it is we think we're working toward, and we haven't aligned them with our values. So for me, I had to sit back and go, okay, what is it that I really value? And one of the things for me, Cassandra, was I do value my family. And I had disregarded boundaries with my personal life.
Yeah.
And was missing a lot of family time and events and telling my kids things like, well, I love what I do. So, I won't be here for this or that, or it's okay that I'm working like 900 hours a week.
Yeah.
Not. The truth is it's not. And it didn't align. So I had to sit down and go, okay, there's aspect. What do I like doing? I value teaching. I value teaching. I value speaking. I value helping women take the shorter road to success. I value that. But I also value my family, time with my family, security, being able to, so I had to pick all of those things, line them up and go, okay, so what am I going to do with this next part of my life?
Right.
And I thought, I'm a driver. I've had entrepreneurial ventures before. Let's go back to that. Let's go back. But let's do it in a way that aligns with my values, which is to me the more of the coaching and teaching component.
Right. That's good. And it's funny because I'm thinking with time, experience, burnout, sick and tired of being sick and tired, I started realizing that, first of all, what are my values? How do I define win? As you indicated, what are my success factors? And I know from this podcast, people are going to think about that, because that to me is a way of rebuilding from the place that you don't really feel comfortable in, to maybe get to a place that you're uncomfortable, but yet that's what you want to do. So if you build that, as you indicated, and remember that too, every day is not a good day. I mean, you could say, okay, one of my values is spending time with family, but yet tomorrow I can't because I got this to do. It's like, don't beat yourself up. I mean, just as long as you recognize what that is. And I just think as I was maturing, I didn't even think about those things. So I loved it when you talked about the values, and I do know people to say, my values, what are they? They have to really think about what that is. And I'm a witness. I had to think about it too. And when I think back over my life, I realized that I was always the oldest of the grandchildren, so to speak. And when I left college, I never went back home. I didn't really know my family. And I think back on it now, and I'm like, dang, I don't even know who they are. And they didn't really know who I was.
Yes.
And that's a shame.
Yes. Right?
So now I'm in a posture to say, I can do this and and have the same values as well. But like you said, make sure you have boundaries set around them.
Yes. So you bring up such a great point. And honestly, people struggle with really getting to the core of what they actually value. They will say they value certain things, but the easiest way, honestly, to tell what somebody values is to ask them to look back on the last 4 weeks and what did you spend your time doing? What did you choose to spend because we do choose. Yes. We do choose. What did you choose to spend your time doing? And what you find is people really don't value the things they say to you. And this is, to me, like in why this is such a guiding principle is because the things you value, you wake up wanting to do. So you actually get further faster because you wake up ready.
Yeah, you do.
Go.
Yeah.
In that area. And there are ways to create lifestyle, income, happiness around your values. But what I find happens to a lot of people is they adopt other people's values.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So,
That's right.
and the family one was a big thing for me too, Cassandra. Like I recently, we ended up taking my mom back to her home in Michigan, where my siblings are going to help care for her for the next period of time. And my husband and I had free time, which we hadn't had in 2 years.
Yeah.
Because of the responsibilities we had. And we went to visit family. We literally spent time with my daughter and her friend. And from there, we drove to visit my extended family. And I literally said very similar things to what you're talking about. I was like, oh my gosh, like I do value this, which means I have to put in more time. But it felt so good.
Yeah.
It felt so in alignment. It was fabulous. It was fabulous.
Right. Genevieve, you not, I want to say cherish yourself, but you describe yourself as telling it like it is. What's the truth you think more women and entrepreneurs in general need to hear? Let's tell it like it is.
It's harder than you think, but the rewards are better than you can imagine.
Okay.
Yeah. Because listen, I know it's so easy to try to, there's so many people out there with business models and things, and they're like, I don't want to tell you the whole truth of this because then you won't do it. And it's kind of like, well, the other side of that is if you actually explain to people the work involved, you're going to attract a different client. You're going to attract a different associate. So I'm all for just tell it like it is and you'll attract the right people.
Yeah. That's good. You talked about, which I thought was really good, about, you have this goal of success and what it takes to win. And then once you get there, the lever moves. You're not done. You always want to do more, right? Okay. It's kind of like when I wrote my book, that was something I always wanted to do. Took me years to write a book. And when I did it, I was so grateful. Was it hard? Yeah, I was so thankful. Then when I got done, I was like, okay, thank you, Lord. Thank you so much. My book is done. I'm so excited. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't settle. It was like something like,
yes,
you're not done. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
There's more for you to do, and much is given, much is required. So you just can't write it and be done. There's a message in this that you need to deliver because women need to hear it. And it's kind of like your coaching, although I don't know how long it took you to realize, well, you knew then you were burnout, you wanted to do something different. Now, from that time to your coaching, how much time was in that? Like in the middle, like when you decided to quit, resign, or retire, and then your coaching, how much time did that take in between that?
Well, I knew that I didn't want to retire. Okay. What I knew was I needed a reset. Okay. I needed a reset. So it's like, I didn't dislike the work. I loved the work. I loved the work. What I didn't like was,
oh shoot,
there I am.
Okay.
Some of the stuff that just comes along with, big corporate life, not unusual.
Right.
And what I really wanted to do was have a reset. I wanted to reset and figure out, how do I add value and have meaning at the same time? So in my head, my choice was, well, I could jump back into corporate living, right? Or I can take some time for myself and reset, because part of what I wanted to know and needed to know was, how did I get there? How did I become a version of myself that I didn't actually even recognize anymore? And so I did some work for a while, but in the back of my head, I was always thinking, I'm not ready to retire. So I am really thankful for my ability to kind of like put a business together. I've done it twice before in my life.
Okay.
So it's always my second plan, if you will, or my first plan. Sometimes it's my plan number one. Sometimes it's plan number two. So I knew that was it. But also, Cassandra, I got to tell you, the way things are changing right now with AI and business and like even podcasting and like we are in the middle, I think, of the very best time to take that risk and have your own business.
Okay.
And I continue to see an accelerated growth in terms of like things that like AI is going to do that's going to help people. What used to take so long for an entrepreneur to do, right? Now it's just so we're going to be more productive in less time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need in on this. I really, honestly and truly was like, I need in on this. I don't know what the future holds, but I need to see what everybody is talking about.
Exactly.
Singularly, the very best time to consider having your own thing.
Right. So you won't get left behind. It's kind of like the food business. How long has wellness and eating healthy happened? And it took a while, but yet those other people are kind of out of business. You know, another thing is shopping. Who would think I can shop online? I'm like, what? So this store is out of business. So you got to be ahead of the game. You have to get involved.
Yes. Yeah. And what's interesting too is people who are entrepreneurial minded typically start with a passion and very little business experience. And that's tough. You know, like I love plant-based eating, Cassandra. I really do.
Really?
If I see one more plant-based business, restaurant go out of business, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm like, listen, you've got to do more than just have a passion and open your business.
Right.
You have to let people know you're here. But when you start a business, nobody tells you this is how you market. And this is how you show up. And like, I got to tell you a quick story. I'm a big bargain shopper. I love bargain shopping. If it's on sale, if it was previously loved, I don't care. I love bargain. And they opened a Wayfair outlet in my.
Really? I love them.
Right? Really? So I really believe they only advertised on social media. I really believe they only on social media said, we're coming to town in like 4 weeks.
Yes.
No, when I went, and I did, the line to get into the outlet was all the way down the strip mall and around the corner. It was an hour wait in the hot Arizona sun to get in. And all I thought was from social media, like somebody understood, right? Somebody understood the assignment and they showed up. But the average Joe, mom, whoever that starts a business, they don't know how to do that effectively.
That's right. Exactly.
And a good dream always dies with a business that didn't make it to its glory days, if you ask me.
Right. So those are some of the 2025 business trends that you had talked about. The things
things are changing. You know, being able to advertise your business and reach a lot of eyeballs, being able to have your own what I call digital store, which is really honestly and truly, right, what social media is. It is your digital store window.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Exactly.
That's all amazing. And I really think AI, we haven't even seen. We haven't even seen what's gonna happen. So much has happened in the last year, and it just keeps exponentially changing.
And it does. Technology changes every day. I'm like, oh, if you tell me, if you have me do something else, I'm like, oh, you're exactly right. So let me ask you this. Um, what could you tell? I mean, you said some really great nuggets, but for my listeners that really want to start living their best life, live all full out, but they're struggling, they're stuck, they're burnout, they just, oh my gosh, they don't know really what to do, but they know what they're doing isn't working. What would you
Right.
tell them today?
Yeah. I would tell them to find a coach. I really would. And I'm not talking about like, and I know there's people out there and they're like, it's tens of thousands of dollars and I will cure all of what ails you or whatever. And it's like, well, first of all, start with a podcast. Like if you think there's some, and here's why I think people should engage with a coach. I was listening to something recently and it was like Brene Brown and she was talking about her coach.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if Brene Brown has a coach, y'all,
hey,
sign up. You know what I mean? Like because we don't know what we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually do need an advocate who can help keep you aligned. So because it's hard for you to troubleshoot your own drama, your own self-limiting beliefs.
Yes.
So honestly and truly, I would say like, listen, find someone that you think resonates with you.
Right.
Start checking out their stuff. A lot of people offer a lot of free content. See if that solves a problem for you. And then find a way to connect with them. Even if you can't do the paid version of what they offer, consume everything that they have and apply it liberally without question and just see if you can't move the needle one thing at a time.
That's right. I concur because you can't do anything by yourself.
No.
You know, and another thing is very valuable is invest in yourself. Yes. You know, we buy these clothes and these materialistic things. And I mean, it's critical. So even the millionaires, they invest in them. They'll tell you, invest in yourself. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's worth it. Not to die, but it's worth it to start investing so that you can start contributing more to this mad big world out here.
Yeah. You know, you raised an excellent point. So many of us wouldn't think twice about dropping a few $100s on an outfit.
Not all.
To look good at a particular event to create, you know, an outcome.
Right.
But we won't put that money into a coach.
That's right.
Who's going to profoundly, if you have the right one, help you through your next stage of.
Exactly. I always say you look so good on the outside, but on the inside, you are a big mess. You're a mess. You're a mess.
Yes.
I can say that because I was there. Right.
Same.
Right.
So you need someone to help you clean your closet.
You do. Well, listen, I could talk to you even more, but we can't.
Yes.
And this, I love the fact that women are getting bad advice. We highlighted that. We talked about the wins, success, the values, and just the nuggets you provided was just unbelievable. And I like to tell my listeners that please share this podcast with anyone that you know that this would benefit. My podcast is on every platform. So there's no excuses, you know, to take a look.
That's what I'm saying.
That's right. The rest
They're out there coaching.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm going to say this right. Genevieve, just for my listeners to know, I've been through this before we came on and I'm still challenged, but I'm okay with that. I'm not ashamed. I'm okay.
It's all good.
Yes, it is. And I just want to thank you again for being a guest on my show. And as I tell all of my listeners, I say bye for now. God bless you. And please continue to, what I say, grow. Continue to invest in yourselves if you don't. And I also urge all of you to please figure out what it is that you want to do to start living your best life on purpose. Yeah. So again, my dear, thank you so much.
Such an honor.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've been enjoying our empowering conversations, Make sure you don't miss out on future episodes of Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. Stay in the loop with all the latest episodes. Join our mailing list over at CassandraCrawley.com. And before you go, hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe now. Until next time, let's get ready to live your best life.